In this lesson, we're going to cover how status synchronization works between Jobber and HighLevel, and how to set up and map webhooks from Jobber to trigger workflows inside your GHL system. Let's start by going back to our process map. In this video, we're going to be covering 4 workflows located in the conversion, onboarding, and delivery stages of our automation system. Each of these workflows is triggered by an inbound webhook from Jobber. These webhooks fire when certain actions take place inside a connected Jobber account. Things like quote being sent, a job being updated, or an invoice being created. All of these workflows serve the same purpose: to keep your opportunity in HighLevel synced with the real-world status of a job in Jobber. As the job progresses, the GHL opportunity updates automatically, keeping your system in alignment. Now, before we dive in, I need to call out an important limitation. The integration system used in this snapshot relies on a private Jobber app, which means it's limited to a one-to-one connection. One GHL subaccount to one Jobber app to one Jobber client account. To connect multiple subaccounts to multiple Jobber accounts, you'll need multiple private apps or a published app from the app marketplace. Now, as mentioned in a previous lesson, an official Jobber integration app does exist, but it's still very new and has limited functionality. As of this recording, its current actions and triggers don't align with the integration architecture used in this course, so we won't be using it here. However, I do recommend installing it and staying familiar with it. All right, so let's look at our first workflow, quote status. This workflow handles 2 Jobber events, quote sent and quote approved. All of the status sync workflows follow a similar structure. They receive a webhook from Jobber. They use the item ID from the webhook to query the Jobber API for full quote details, and they use those details to find a matching contact in GHL and locate the appropriate opportunity, and then take the correct action, updating the pipeline stage, value, etc. If a quote is sent, we move the opportunity to the quote sent stage and attach the Jobber quote ID and the quote link. If the quote is approved, we move the opportunity to the quote approved stage, update the value, and create a new post-sales opportunity in a separate pipeline. We don't move the original opportunity because doing so would break conversion reporting. To connect this webhook in Jobber, we need to copy our webhook URL. So let's scroll up to the top, grab our URL, and now we're going to go over to the app in our Jobber Development Center. We're going to go to the webhook section, and we're going to add a webhook. And so we're going to add the topic quote sent, paste our URL, and quote approved. Save our app. All right, let's trigger an actual quote in Jobber so that we can map the payload to our trigger in GHL. So we're just going to go over to our test account. We're going to take a look at this guy right here, and we're just going to mark this approved. All right, so let's go over to our workflow. We're going to look for new mapping reference. And there we are. Quote approved with all our data, and save your trigger. All right, so next up is the job status workflow, which uses the job created and job updated topics. Process is identical. We're going to grab our webhook URL. We're going to go over to our app. We're going to add job create, and job update. All right, and save our app. So this workflow is almost identical to the quote workflow. It receives the webhook, queries Jobber for full job details and uses those details to find the correct contact and opportunity in HighLevel. Then it updates the opportunity based on the job status. If it's a new job, we attach the job or job ID. And if it's an update, we update the pipeline stage of the status. All right, so let's go over to our job completed workflow. This workflow uses the job closed topic in Jobber. So again, let's grab our URL, head over to Jobber, add our job closed topic, save. All right. And again, I'm not going to trigger this just for the sake of time, but you need to trigger it so you can save your mapping reference. Again, this workflow is almost identical. It fetches job details and updates the appropriate opportunity to the job completed stage. All right, and our final workflow is the invoice status. This uses the invoice created and invoice updated topics. So we're going to copy our URL. We're going to add a webhook for invoice create, for invoice update. All right. There we go. We got our app saved. All right. So back to our workflow. Again, this workflow is very, very similar. We receive the webhook, fetch invoice details from Jobber, determine the client and the job, and match those to our contact and our opportunity. If it's a new invoice, we simply attach the Jobber invoice ID to the opportunity. And if the invoice is marked as paid, we move the opportunity to the invoice paid stage of the pipeline. You can use the same webhook based setup to receive and process any Jobber event, not just these four. In the next lesson, we'll talk about tips and best practices to make sure that your integration runs efficiently and scales well with your client's business.